Okay, Chairman, ready when you are.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well. I'd like, first of all, to welcome our new head of fund, Sean Green, who is on the call today and will be joining us. Well, he's joined us at the beginning of the month and is slowly being inducted into the different elements of the pension fund. I think I've only had apologies from Jennifer Eastham. We also understand that Chris Rule will be a little late joining us, probably about 11, I think. So any disclosure of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests, anyone? No. Okay, can we then go on to we have quite a challenging agenda today. There's a lot of items, and in particular, I'd like to get to the part 2 items and give both Ethan and Eric probably a bit more time than usual to explain the position. So hopefully we'll get through a few of the part 1 items fairly quickly. So on the minutes, first of all, I'd just like to confirm the issue, and I'll put it up in front of us that we were awarded the best fund of 2020. So I think that's recognition to everybody, and in particular to the team who are working constantly very hard on this. And so thank you to all involved. On the minutes, anybody got any issues? If I just go through page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. I think there are issues that are being picked up in the main agenda. Page 5, page 6, page 7, and the final page, page 8. So we're happy to move those.
Chairman, if I may just interrupt, just to let you know, I have put a message in the chat, but I have seen an email from Councillor Foster just giving his apologies. He's been called into another meeting that he needs to attend to. I think he will try and join us if he can.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Can we then go on to agenda item 4, which is the Lancashire County Pension Fund Investment Strategy Statement, and I'll hand over to Michelle. How are you doing?
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we are looking at the refreshed version of the investment strategy statement. Under the 2016 regulations, we're supposed to revise the investment strategy statement at least every 3 years. And given the changes and recommendations by the investment panel on the 24th of August 2020, we've actually made some very slight modifications to the strategic asset allocation. And also the new asset class mandates of LPPI became effective on the 1st of January 2021. So the investment strategy statement has been updated to reflect these changes, both in terms of looking at benchmarks that are more relevant to the asset classes that we have, and rather than using general indexes, using the specific asset appropriate benchmark. So that's all that's been changed in this document. Otherwise, the statement remains more or less as approved almost 3 years ago, just tightened up in some areas to make sure that we are asking LPPI to perform against very, very strong benchmarks, and we can actually measure that performance. So the committee are asked to approve the investment strategy statement at this point. Thank you.
Okay, everybody happy with that? I think in particular, you should make sure in terms of the investment objectives in paragraph 2, maximise the returns and make sure that we achieve and maintain funding level of 100%, which is what we are doing. Okay, happy with that one? Thank you. And I'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the budget monitoring for the period to the end of December 2020. Michelle?
Thank you. Chair, could I take agenda item 5 and agenda item 6 together, because they're more or less continuations, if that's possible?
Okay, no problem with that.
Thank you. Okay, so quickly on with the budget monitoring. The budget monitoring is basically looking at the forecast for the end of the financial year, and the same theme continues throughout the year, where we've over recovered contributions because of our prepayment policy, running almost 44 million in surplus because of that, but that's been tempered by a reduction, obviously an under recovery in investment income because of the pandemic and all of the volatility in the market. We've also had an increase in investment management fees in our pooled asset classes, and as a result of that, we do have an underspend, but our underspend would have been greater if we didn't have these other things offsetting against the prepayments. So basically, it's just for you to note that our full year budget was 219.1. Our forecast for the end of the year is 204.7, and that is under recovery of roughly 14.4 million. So I will stop there and take any questions on this item at this point.
No questions, anyone?
Yes, I've put a request to speak in. Is that
sorry,
method?
Sorry, I haven't picked that up.
Chair.
Go on.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether you could put hands up in here or what the method was. So on page 22, it talks about the investment income and the impact of the pandemic. And I'm just wondering if there's currently any impact on our members from that. And also about the fees. So we often get told that, you know, the fees are linked to performance and therefore it's not necessarily bad if they go up. But I'm noting that, you know, the performance in some aspects has gone down, but the fees have gone up. So I just want to ask about that, because obviously we don't want to be paying excessive fees. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for the question. Okay, so taking the first question, which was, does the under recovery of investment income impact our members? In the long run, no. So basically, markets always have peaks and troughs, and you are going to get fluctuations, you know, throughout the market and business cycle. So in terms of where we are actuarially, our funding level is very, very good. It's very healthy, 108 million in surplus. Even if you do have these peaks and troughs, we are nowhere near the upper or lower warning limits for the fund. So just to reassure members that when we looked at our funding levels and we looked at our cash flows, we are not approaching any of our warnings for this fund. So that's the first, hopefully that sort of answers the first question in terms of, does it affect our members in terms of our promise to pay pensions as they fall due. The second question is a very good one, because yes, investment performance has suffered, but we do have a performance element in our fees. So you will have managers, and this is not the LPPI. This will be where we have other managers that are not in the pooled investments who have a performance element on their fee levels, and those we cannot anticipate. You know, we don't even know how to calculate those at the moment, so that will always impact the fees. And because they're done in arrears, so we actually don't know what they are at the moment, but we have put in some sort of prudence measure for those. So yes, you will find that your fees may run ahead because of these sort of nuances around you know, how we reward fees across segregated parts of the portfolio. but reiterating that this is not the LPPI element. They do not charge a performance related fee. As we transition more assets into the pool, we'll find that this will smooth out some of those irregularities, and all of those divergences should sort of settle down. But right now we haven't transitioned all of our assets. I think in the investment strategy statement, I think I sort of pointed out some sectors where we haven't completely finished a transition. So as we get more and more legacy assets into the pools, what you'll find is you'll get more stability in terms of your fees. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony, I wasn't sure if you had your hand. Yeah, you've got your hand up. Go on.
Thank you. It's on the page 27, the investment management fees on pooled investments. Now, I know they're always big figures, but it's gone up by 25% from something under 60 million to over 78 million, which seems a hell of a jump. Are we doing a lot more on pooled investments in terms of moving them around?
Yes, we are.
Is that the answer?
Yes, we are, because we had a situation where we had a lot of assets sitting in with individual managers. As we pull them into the pools get bigger, and then as the net asset value of the pool grows, the fees that are applied to that, obviously that's what you're seeing there. So what we're trying to do is the whole sort of premise of pooling is that we get as many assets transitioned in the pool. What you're seeing is this journey of pool and pathway of assets migrating into the pool. So the pool is getting bigger, and then obviously because of that, the net asset value of the pool is getting bigger, and then fees are applied to that. So that's why you're seeing the pooled element looking like it's big, but it's not. In years prior to this, what you would have probably had is a bigger invoiced fee section. What you're going to find is when you look at your invoice fees, they will obviously look lower, and your pooled fees might now look larger because you're putting more assets into the pool, and you're reducing this element of assets held outside of the pool. So you have a mixture of non-pooled assets, which are the ones that you get an invoice for, and then the pooled assets where the fee is taken against the net asset value of the fund. As we get more assets into the pool, which is what we want to do, but that's a positive step, you're going to see these sort of fluctuations until we get to a steady state. We're not at the steady state as yet. That's why you're seeing, okay, why does that look so big? And as market values get higher, you'll find that the net asset value obviously then will be higher, and the fees applied to that obviously will look higher. So it's all part of that pooling mechanism.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
you're welcome.
All right,
Can
everybody.
I just add one point that I think the councillors are absolutely right to be focusing on fees, simply because transparency and around fees is something that we are continuing to get more information on, as was just pointed out. It is, especially on the performance fee side of things. So this is, especially as we go to monitor performance, and especially look into different ways of perhaps assets being run, we will continue to ensure that we get the optimal transparency on fees. And that's going to be an ongoing focus for us.
Thank you. If I can just come back on that for a second, it does seem to me later on in the agenda, we're living to a certain extent on reflected glories of past gains. Now, I know there's been a pandemic for 12 months, but the trend is definitely downwards in terms of the stuff that we're doing against the benchmark.
Okay, I think we'll come on to that one later when we look at performance. I've no doubt Eric will have some comments on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just going quickly into item 6. So item 6 sets out the new budget that we're asking the members to approve for the year ending 31st of March 2022. And just want to quickly say that the same theme continues. We took a lot of prepayments in on contributions. So what you'll find this year is that when you looked at the income part of the budget, you'll see that the income looks a lot less. That's because a lot of members, a lot of employers took up the option to prepay. And as a result of that, your income just looks like it's lower, but it's not lower. You've just had it in advance. We've actually used our investment income projections for the 31st of March 2021 to help us estimate roughly what investment income will be this year. This coming year, and the same thing in terms of investment management expenses and fees, so basically making sure that if there's an asset growth assumption, we've only applied a marginal growth assumption of about 5%. We're not trying to go too high, but again, the performance related element of the fee we could not estimate at all, and so we didn't budget for those. In terms of oversight and governance, we have been undercharged for some of our LCC recharged elements, and what we've done is we've made sure that we've actually reflected an updated budget for that in the overall budget that's put before you. So our net position for the new year is a reduction in the money available for investment of 37.1 million, and we have a budget spreadsheet at page 36 of your agenda, which actually shows it looks like a shortfall of 37 million, but actually it's only looking like a shortfall because we've actually got your contributions in advance. If we had timed the contributions to actually enter this budget in this year, you would have a surplus of 49.9 million, 50 million. So it's quite a good budget, very healthy budget. We're in a better position, lower risk, because we got our contributions in advance. So we're in very, very, very strong position. So I just want to sort of end there and take some questions.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody will agree we're better off getting the cash in advance. So, okay, I don't see any hands, any questions. So are we happy to note the first report, agenda item 5, and then approve the budget in item 6? Okay, thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 7, which is the strategic plan for the pension fund. And again, Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
Busy
so
today.
So we have a strategic plan, as you know. Our last plan took us up to the last triennium, and this plan articulates what we want to do over the next 3 years to 2024. And basically, if you think about all of our activities, they cover governance, asset and liability management, administration, and of course, the most important thing is communication with our members. What we've done in this report is basically giving you both an update of what we have achieved against the objectives that you've set for us within the last 3 years, and setting out all our actions within that update. And in this new strategic plan, we do set out what we believe are the most important matters coming up. I'm only going to choose one of each and then take your questions. So in governance, we are going to undertake a service-based review of LPPA and LPPI. The reason being is that the 5-year break clause is approaching, and we need to actually just make sure that we are looking at how that service works. In terms of administration, we will be looking at what can we do in terms of McCloud and preparing for the McCloud impacts. In terms of asset and liability management, we want to target 100% or approaching 100% if we can keep it there, solvency level, and making sure that we're early anticipating any risks and taking any remedial action as need be. And I suppose last but not least, in terms of communications, we're trying to make sure that we have more actionable strategies on communications to make sure that we're really engaged with our members and how they perceive quality. Are we providing high quality services? That's what we really are interested in. Are our members satisfied? Do they think that we're responsive? Are we accessible? Do we exemplify what the values that they think that we should be delivering in terms of the fund? So I'll end there on that, and I'll just take your questions if you have them.
Okay, I think this sets out very well, in particular, on page 42, I think it is, what we're here for and how it all fits together. It's a very complex setup, but it's being run very well by all our team at the moment. So No questions. We're asked to approve the strategy.
Could I just ask a quick question?
Oh, sorry, Gina.
It was just, sorry, I've just been scanning this, and around the issue of communication, firstly, I wasn't sure whether this document is available to the members, and what would be the specific next steps around communication with our members.
Thank you, Gina. This document will be available in a pension member friendly format, and so this will be available in a sort of concise document on our website, so that members can actually see what we're trying to do for them. Yes. In terms of what are the actions, the actions that underpin that, these are things that we're going to be working through with the pension board. The pension board are sort of really well placed to actually help work with the pension team in developing a solid action plan. We are actually recruiting to the pensions team to get a communications resource. We haven't previously had that. By making sure that we resource this area, will ensure that we deliver the plan in this area. So it's very hard to deliver a plan or put attention and focus or area of focus into action if you haven't got a resource. So we're very serious about the communication element and making sure that the communication strategy that the pension committee approved last year is actually a living document and not just something that we take out and dust every 3 years, tick some boxes and then revise it in another 3 years. So that's the whole sort of basis of getting a resource in to make sure that the communication strategy becomes actionable, and using the pension board as a critical friend to help drive that progress through on the communication strategy.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm also sure Joe will be taking note of this in terms of the communications from the LPPA point of view as well. David, you want to?
Thank you, Eddie. When I read this report the other day, and the thing that struck me, and Michelle referred to it in her opening remarks, was that we will be doing a 5-year review of LPP and the new relationship. And it strikes me that the strategy for the fund in terms of how it manages all these issues and the relationship with the LPP is really at the heart of our job. Because on one hand, there are a lot of good experts working for LPP, and I see Greg's here. But from the fund's point of view, we need people who can monitor and judge whether they are doing the job as we want it to be done, and how well the investments are doing, and how well the administration is doing. And there's always the dilemma of, if you like, appointing too many very efficient and highly paid staff with the fund to double check the work that's being done by LPP, and it's getting that balance right of making sure that we've got the right expertise to check the work of LPP without spending a lot of money and undermining the whole basis on which the partnership between ourselves and London took place a few years ago. So it's, to me, this getting this right, and for us amateurs, being able to make that judgment by asking questions of the experts comes to the heart of it. So I just think, to me, in some ways, this is probably the most important document on the agenda looking forward in getting this right. And for me, as a member of the committee, having confidence that our officers are asking the right questions and judging the right information and the right data when they come to us with reports. And I just think that that is absolutely the heart of what we need to do. So, I mean, I'm not sort of saying anything's wrong. I'm just saying this is, to me, is at the heart of the journey that we moved on since we set up the LPP in the first place. And I just think it's going to be interesting as we review after the 5 years, how we conclude that review.
Yeah, David, I agree with you. It is a very important document. I think there's a number of things. I'll let William speak in a minute from the pension board point of view. But bear in mind, you know, we have a lot of very experienced officers. We also have Eric and Ethan, who are our advisors in terms of the investment and the work of LPP. And, you know, we're constantly in touch with them. But William, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just kind of really, David, absolutely agree with what you said. One of the pension board's role is to assist the committee in doing exactly this. And actually, this particular item comes up with the two things which my board members are most concerned about. One is kind of governance and oversight of LPP, checking that they are doing at an appropriate cost what we want them to do. And the second is communications. And the only other point I'll make is that we are not highly paid.
We'll leave that for another day.
Would you like to compare to some of the committee members?
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Or are we happy to?
Can I just make a point? I think it's a very good document, and as has already been said, it goes to the heart of what we're supposed to do. But on page 60, it's actually foretelling what we're doing, because there's a typo. I think it should say 2020, not 2022. When you're looking at the end, ensure that the investment strategy is up to date and appropriate. It says the investment strategy statement was revised in March 2022 for approval by the Pensions Committee.
Sorry, my apologies.
We're not that good.
My apologies.
That's why we're all here as members, to actually catch out the experts. Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, we're happy to approve. Thank you. We'll move on then to item 8, which is the pension admin strategy statement review. Again, Michelle, are you?
Yes. Would you like me to present this, or Colin?
Or do you want Colin to?
Yeah, Colin could present this.
I'd like to thank Colin Smith on this one. He's done all the work, and
yes, he has.
you know, in conjunction with Joe Derbyshire and others. So, Colin, do you want to quickly introduce this one, please? You're muted.
Mute.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Sorry about that. So the pension administration strategy statement, it was actually last reviewed September 18. We made some changes then around the sort of fund performance standards, and also we introduced sort of charging mechanism. As part of the general review, this was then taken to the pension board on in January this year. They made sort of 1 or 2 minor changes, but nothing fundamentally changed from the statement that was already agreed back in September. So very simply, we just asked, the committee asked just to note that the new fund branding is being applied to this particular document, that there's no real major changes at this point. And a further point that the communication strategy will be updated to include a reference to this, so that there's an access for fund members in general to see this pension administration strategy statement. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Colin, thank you. Again, this is a very important document, in particular for members. It gives the details of members if they want to appeal against any issues. So, you know, it's, again, we have a number of experts on this, but in particular, Colin leads the area. So anybody, any questions? No? Are we happy to approve that document? Yep. Okay, thank you. We'll now go on to agenda item 9. I think, Colin, do you want, I think this, we've had the admissions and termination policy paper before us recently. There have just been some changes in terms of, in particular, arrangements for employers who may want to leave the scheme and have deficits, and the arrangements for probably making it easier for them to, you know, change over. So I don't know, Colin, do you want to make any other comment or?
Yeah.
Don't wait for questions.
Yeah, just to sort of reflect on that. So these are a result of recent changes in the regulations. So it gives the fund extra tools, if you like, to sort of manage terminations. So there's a couple of there's one new policy and some significant amends to the other one, just to allow us the flexibility to use those new tools. And just to also say that, as you're probably aware, the employer risk is actually moving back to an in-house, so it will become part of the in-house team going forward. So we're going to work very, very closely with the fund actuary in looking at covenants of employers, looking at bonds and securities, and putting these policies into place.
Okay. All happy to approve? Yep. Okay, thank you. Move on to agenda item 10, which is basically just an update regarding the pension fund website that we approved a little while ago, that this has now been completed. And I don't know if anybody's actually been on the website yet, but it appears, from my looking at it, appears okay. So we're just asked to note this. Any questions? No, happy to note. Thank you. Right, item 11 on pension training and feedback from members. And I think the first one is me, and certainly just turn my other phone off, sorry. Sorry, I was thrown by my granddaughter.
Chairman, if I might just interrupt just for a second.
Yeah.
Just to remind members, the previous item, there is a workshop on the 23rd of March where there will be a demonstration of the website. Should members want to sort of dial in and have a sort of look and be taken through its functionality. And that workshop, I understand, will also, there'll be a presentation from LPP about communications.
Yeah. Okay, Mike.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah. Yeah, in terms of the Local Authority Pension Funds Forum webinar, I mean, it was a very interesting webinar series. In particular, there was quite a lot on climate change, which I think is, clearly relevant in many areas at the moment. I think the main thing I remember from it, though, is clearly the awards on the final evening when we were awarded Fund of the Year. So I think that's all I'm going to say on that. So as I say, we'd like to get through fairly quickly. I think the workshop from LPP, there were a number of people attended that. On the local government scheme update, Paul, I don't know if you want to say anything. Jennifer, we've got apologies from, but she found it very useful.
Yeah, it was. From a selfish point of view, I wanted to know about the exit package, the exit strategy, that the cap that they brought in, but that's now history. And I was hoping to find out a bit more in detail about McLeod, because I've still heard a lot about it, and I know there is an impact, but I don't know a great deal of detail. So I was hoping to find out a bit more about that, but they didn't go into detail. They did mention them both, and they did a bit about it. But yeah, it was good. But I was maybe asking a bit more of it than I wanted. There was there, but it was worth attending.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll make a note of that in terms of McLeod, and maybe one of our workshops can pick that up.
Yeah.
Once there's maybe a bit more clarity on it. Okay. Jenny, have you got anything to say about the responsible investment webinar?
Yeah.
Or Gina?
Yeah, Chair, I found it was very high level, and because it was a webinar, there wasn't much opportunity for asking questions as we went through, and quite a lot of it I didn't follow all that well, I'm afraid.
Right. Did they not give any option for going back to people afterwards? Asking questions.
I'd just like to agree with Jenny. I mean, I'm glad she said that, because I was thinking I find our own internal training or opportunities so much better. It depends on your learning style, but it was so formal. It was quite difficult to ask questions and at the right moment to. I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't the best training. But actually, I think we've covered a lot of the issues anyway. In-house already, in a more accessible format.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we'll go back to them and you know, talk to them about the point in terms of questions. They certainly should be giving you the opportunity. You know, if you have questions that you want answered.
Yeah, well, I think the format of a webinar is not as user-friendly as Zoom or Teams or some of the other methods. I think that's one of the things.
Okay. Right, thank you for that. The workshop, again, on the 18th of February, will be coming on more to later on in the agenda, which was about the local pensions partnership budget. The last one is down to me, and I've been dipping in and out of the PLSA investment conference over the last few days. It was the elements I've seen, because in between we've had other meetings. It was a very good conference with Pensions Minister, Baroness Helen Morrissey, Chair of the Diversity Project, speaking about gender equality in portfolio performance, which was quite interesting. Robert Peston giving his normal, maybe extreme views at times, but also about, there was a very good session on China and changing of the global order from Linda Ewer, who's an economist at University of Edinburgh. I'm sure all the sessions will be available in the library shortly, so I would encourage people to, you know, just have a little look, because it certainly improves your knowledge. So I'll move on to agenda item 12, which is actually the training plan for 21-22. We're asked to agree this training plan. Clearly, there's a lot of issues within there. We'll take the note about McLeod, and we'll look to incorporate that in at some point. So, but anybody, any comments on the training plan? No? So
Eddie,
happy to agree that.
Oh. Eddie, just to say, it's Eric here. Just to say, at the moment, we've got Ethan and I in November doing a strategy update. What we might do is update people on the strategic review of LPPI at that point, rather than because that's already been mentioned. That's a very important piece of work. It may not be November, but we'll certainly do it at some point during the year in a workshop and a pre-committee briefing.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Eddie, there's nothing there specifically around responsible investment policy training, and we have had that regularly over the last few years. And given the changing context of that, I would have thought we could reserve a spot perhaps to ensure that we have something as things change, because it's changing all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, with the conference in November coming up, it's a vital area.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will move on to the responsible investment report.
Okay, so
Michelle?
Thank you. Okay, so the report is basically setting out our progress and things that we've been really doing since the last meeting. So the first part of it is talking about the engagement themes that Robeco, the Robeco engagement has determined for the fund. And these are the climate transition of financials, labour rights in a post-COVID world, acceleration to the Paris Agreement, enhanced human rights due diligence, and the social impact of gaming. So we would expect to sort of get some sort of reporting along those lines from Frances and her RI team, I suppose, as we go on throughout 2021. The other update is about the SAB, Scheme Advisory Board's Responsible Investment Advisory Group. So Frances is now one of the appointed members of that group. So that's really good, because that means that we will get sort of early sighting of whatever's going through. The Task Force on climate related financial disclosures, as you know, doesn't apply to the LGPS as yet, but we are expecting a consultation document on that in due course. We are sort of engaging through the LAPFF, as you know. Eddie's a member. He does attend those meetings. We are sort of keeping in line with what the LAPFF are advocating. So we're sort of working collectively and collaboratively with the LAPFF on this sector, on the LGPS sector. In terms of, Gina had made a question about the inevitable policy response on the PRI. And we did sort of read those documents and took that sort of prompting seriously, and LPPI then joined in the coordinated action with the PRI to write to the Prime Minister in that respect on planning for COP26 and for just transition. So basically, the last thing I'd like to point out is that in the minutes we said that we will sort of summarise the 7 principles of sustainable development from our meeting with the New York State Fund. And while we're not a natural comparator for that fund, I think the key point to take away is that within their minimum standards approach that they advocate, it's all about trying to engage rather than sort of taking yourself away from the table. So this report does have the dashboard, which I'm assuming you've read, and we could actually take any questions that you have in terms of that dashboard.
Yeah, can I just add? I mean, Gina actually requested. Unfortunately, it was too late. It was only the day the agenda went out for us to put a section on in respect of responsible investment for a just transition. And I don't know if people know, but there is an all-party parliamentary group that is investigating into the just transition, which is basically acknowledging that the world needs to transition smoothly to low carbon. And it's looking at the implications of that, both in terms of not only local authority funds, but also the wider pension situation. What I'll do, so that people know a little more on this, very much LAPFA, that I'm quite involved with, are leading a lot of this investigation. And there is another meeting next Wednesday, just showing how successful it is. I think it's the first Zoom meeting I've seen that is a sellout. So basically, you know, there's clearly a lot of interest in this investigation. But what I'll do is send out, after today's meeting, the terms of reference for this review, so that everybody can have a look and make comments as appropriate.
Thanks, Eddie. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Thanks. So it's an inquiry, isn't it? It's an inquiry into the just transition, and there's a specific element of what contribution pension funds can make, and is specifically local government pension funds. So my understanding is that that anybody can respond to a public inquiry like that, I think.
Yep.
So so LAPFI will respond on behalf of LPP. Well, what I'm asking, just to strengthen anything, is will we as a pension fund be responding in addition to LPPI and LAPFI? I mean, it's just because the more times they hear that there's a strength of feeling about these issues, the better, I think, you know, in terms of the comments that we might have, because I think we would
I think certainly LPPI through Francis' work will be putting a response in. Okay. You know, and it's not only looking, you know, I suppose local government is only a small part of it. The outcome will be a set of recommendations for UN agencies, national and devolved government, local government, policymakers, business and investors. So it's going to cover, you know, the recommendations they're looking to give are going to cover a very wide field. And, you know, clearly they're looking to report fairly early, particularly in view of the conference coming up in November.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Mark?
Thank you, Eddie. Seems to be a very hot topic, especially for members. We always get lots of inquiries from local residents about how the pension fund and its responsible investment in sort of carbon businesses. In the report, it's quite detailed, the 24 pages. It'd be good to have a bit more sort of illustration regarding how over time we've reduced our investment in carbon businesses and have really a strong aspiration to get down to net zero carbon by a certain date. Would be, it just feels like we're there, but we don't seem to be sort of pushing the boundaries as far as we could be doing on this. And I'd like to see a little bit more. There's lots of text in there. Before you understand fully, it'd be nice to see some more illustration of where we come from and where we're going to and how we're going to achieve that.
Yeah. Okay, we can take that comment back to Frances and her team. I mean, clearly the team at LPPI looking after RI has grown considerably, reflecting the importance, and we'll take that comment back.
Thank you, Eddie.
Okay.
Can I just add on that?
Go on.
I totally agree with Mark. It's just like there's so much good work going on into producing this dashboard, and you know, recognizing Francis has worked really hard on this, and we've had training on it. But at the end of the day, when we get contacted by residents, we kind of need a paragraph to reply to sum up the direction of travel, what we've done, you know, and even to, you know, just to go back to this and try and do that's quite hard. So it's almost like ultra simple something from our responsible investment report, like this time's takeaway. I know
a layman's approach to it.
Our job to do that, but it's so hard.
Yeah, I think the one thing I noted was for the first time the brown sectors has actually reduced below 3%. You know, I think this, as we noted earlier, and in the strategy, you know, what the main aim of the fund is, and I'm sure, Gina, you don't want me to remind you of that, but, you know, we've got to do this on a phased basis that protects our members. You know, the members are number one in all of this, and we've got to protect the long-term pension aspirations. So, you know, we are, you know, doing a lot on responsible investment, but we're doing it steadily and we're doing it in the best interests of the fund. Mark, another comment?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's just sometimes I know we have responsibility to have the fund, the stability of the fund for the members in the future going forward. Also need to be in tandem with how we're going to do that and reduce our sort of carbon impact on there, you know. So I do understand we have both responsibility, and I would like a layman's simple paragraph, half a page on where we've come from, where we're going to, and our long-term strategy, and where we can, because I get lots of inquiries from residents, and I need to explain that back, because sometimes taking the data out of there can be quite complex, you know. So it'd be nice to be more simpler approach for us to understand. I'm not a pension expert All I want to do is have a synopsis, a quick summary of where we are and where we're going.
Okay, we'll look to take that forward. Okay, everybody happy with that report? We're asked to note that. We now move on to the approval of the 21-22 work plan for the local pension board. William, I don't know if you want to say anything on this one.
I think I'll answer any questions about the actual work plan. The only comment I'd just like to make is give you a quick sneak preview. At your next meeting, you'll get our kind of my appraisal of the board's effectiveness, and the main topics that came up as issues that the board members wished to focus on next year were, first of all, continuous improvement, just making sure that both the fund and behind that LPP are continuing to improve what they do. Secondly, the risk register format. And thirdly, as we've discussed earlier, communications. So expect to see those three appear at some point during the year as well.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I think in particular, looking at the risk register is an important factor for the committee going forward. Clearly, I've attended quite a few of the pension board meetings, and they do a great job on our behalf. So anybody, any questions? Or are we happy to note the new work plan? Okay, thank you. At that point, do you want to have 5 minutes before we go into part 2? Then Mike can obviously log anybody else off that shouldn't be in on the meeting. So we'll have 5 minutes so you can all make a cup of tea. We're not doing too bad at the moment, so a cautious keep going.
Sorry, Chair, just before we do that, just for completion, if you could get us to item 17, exclusion of the press and public, because then I think we would reach a natural break point in the meeting.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, there's no urgent business as such, although you'll all have noted that the additional paper that came through yesterday, which should have been part of the normal agenda, and we apologise for that. The date of the next meeting is the 18th of June, 10:30. And now, as Mike wants, exclusion of press and public, please.
Thank you, Chair. And just to clarify for members, the additional report that is being brought to you under item 15, that is a part 2 report. So obviously, when we move into part 2, we'll discuss it then. Okay. Thank you very much. I will now end the live webcast. Thank you.
Thank you.